Hello, everyone, and welcome back to English Podcasts for Life. I'm David, and I'm here, as always, with my wonderful co-host, Sarah.
Hi, everyone. Hi, David. It's so good to be back with our listeners. We know you tune in because you love learning English in a natural, enjoyable way. And today, we've prepared something really special.
Yes, today we're diving into a topic that doesn't always get enough attention in language learning: active listening.
Exactly. Many learners focus a lot on speaking, which is great, of course. Speaking is important. But listening is half of every conversation. And when you become an active listener, your speaking and understanding improve naturally.
You know, Sarah, I think of active listening as kind of like a superpower. Imagine you're talking to someone, maybe a teacher, maybe a new friend, and you don't just hear their words. You really understand them. You notice the tone, the rhythm, the small expressions. That's when language learning becomes exciting.
That's such a good point. And I think listeners will enjoy this episode because we're not only going to explain what active listening is, but we'll also share practical strategies, little stories, and even some cultural insights.
And don't worry, no exercises in this episode. This is all about listening, enjoying, and hopefully feeling inspired to practice active listening in your own English journey.
So grab a cup of tea, get comfortable, and let's start exploring.
All right, so first, what exactly is active listening? Sarah, how would you describe it?
For me, active listening is when you're not just passively hearing words, but you're fully engaged in the conversation. You're paying attention, you're showing interest, and you're responding in a way that shows you understand.
Yes, passive listening is like when the TV is on in the background and you're scrolling through your phone. You might hear some words, but you're not really focused. Active listening is the opposite. It's intentional.
And here's something important for English learners. Active listening is a skill. You can practice it. You can improve it. It's not just about talent or being good with languages.
Right. And I'll add this. Active listening isn't only about the other person. It actually helps you too. When you listen actively, you process language more deeply. You notice vocabulary, grammar patterns, pronunciation without even opening a textbook.
That's so true. In fact, sometimes my students tell me, "Oh, I don't have time to study vocabulary today." And I say, "Well, did you listen to a podcast or to a conversation or even a YouTube video? Because if you're really paying attention, that is vocabulary study."
Exactly.
Let me share a quick story. I once had a student, her name was Lena, and she was living in the UK. At first she said, "People speak too fast. I can't understand anything." She felt frustrated.
That's such a common feeling.
Yes, but then we worked on active listening strategies. For example, instead of trying to understand every single word, she started focusing on the key words. She paid attention to context, and importantly, she started showing people she was listening by nodding, asking small questions, repeating part of what she heard.
So she wasn't just listening, she was participating.
Exactly. And after a few weeks, she told me, "I still don't understand every word, but now I understand the meaning. And people are more patient with me because they can see I'm trying to follow." That's the power of active listening.
That's such a good story. And I think it shows that listening isn't about perfection. It's about connection.
So maybe let's break it down. What are the main elements of active listening?
Good idea. I'd say there are three big ones. Attention, really focusing on the speaker. Response, showing you're engaged. Reflection, making sure you understood correctly.
Perfect. Let's talk about each.
Okay, number one, attention. This means giving the speaker your full focus. Put your phone down. Look at the person. If you're listening to audio, close other distractions.
And notice not just the words, but also the tone and emotion. For example, if someone says, "I'm fine," in a flat voice, they might not actually be fine. Active listeners pick up on that.
Yes, and sometimes, especially in English, tone communicates more than words.
Number 2 is response. This doesn't mean giving long answers. It can be simple. I see, really.
These little responses show the speaker that you're with them.
And if you're learning English, these responses are powerful tools. Even if you can't say something long, you can still participate.
Exactly. And then number 3, reflection. That's when you repeat or paraphrase what you heard. Like if someone says, "I had a terrible day at work," you can respond, "Oh, your day was difficult?" That shows you understood.
And if you misunderstood, the speaker can correct you, which is perfect because that's how you learn.
Now, David, I think we should also talk about why active listening feels difficult sometimes. Because many learners might think, "Oh no, I'm bad at listening."
Yes, good point. One reason is that English speakers, especially native speakers, often talk quickly. They connect words, they use slang, they don't always pronounce things clearly.
Right. And our brains try to translate every word, which makes us overwhelmed.
That's why one strategy is don't aim for 100% understanding. Focus on the main idea. That reduces pressure.
Another reason it's hard is because listening requires patience. Speaking feels active, you're producing words. Listening can feel passive, but actually, it's mental work.
And let's be honest, sometimes conversations are just not interesting.
Yes, that too. But even then, you can practice listening skills. So maybe let's share some small, practical techniques that listeners can start using right away.
Yes, let's do that. I'll go first. Number 1, repeat back a keyword. If someone says, "I had an interview yesterday," you can respond, "Interview?" That shows you're listening and encourages them to explain more.
Nice one. Okay, my turn. Number 2, use your body language. Nodding, leaning forward, eye contact. Even if your vocabulary is limited, your body can show you're listening.
Love it. Number 3, don't interrupt. Sometimes we're so focused on our answer that we stop listening. Try to let the person finish.
Yes, and number 4, ask small follow-up questions. For example, "Oh, really? Why?" Or, "And then what happened?" These are simple, but they keep the conversation flowing.
Beautiful.
So listeners, I hope you're already imagining how you can use these techniques in your next English conversation.
And don't worry if it feels awkward at first. Active listening is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
Exactly.
All right, Sarah. I think this is a good moment to pause. We've covered the basics of what active listening is, why it's important, and some first strategies.
Yes, and after a short break, we'll go deeper. We'll talk about cultural differences in listening, some common mistakes learners make, and more real-life examples.
So stay with us, everyone, and keep listening actively.
Let's begin with something fascinating, cultural differences. Because listening and showing that you're listening doesn't look the same everywhere in the world.
Oh yes, that's so true. For example, in many Western countries like the US or the UK, people often show active listening through eye contact. If you're talking to someone and they keep looking away, it might seem like they're not paying attention.
Exactly. But in some Asian cultures, too much eye contact can feel uncomfortable or even disrespectful. So the way you signal active listening depends on where you are.
Another example is the little sounds people make while listening. In English, we often say, "uh-huh," "right," "I see," but in Japanese, listeners might say, "hi, hi," or un. It's the same idea, showing you're engaged, but the style is different.
Yes, and in some cultures, people stay quiet while listening. Silence is a way of showing respect, whereas in other cultures, silence might feel like you're bored or confused.
So, if you're an English learner, here's the key. Don't be afraid to copy the local style. If you're in an English-speaking environment, practice using those little responses, the nodding, the eye contact. It helps you fit in naturally.
That reminds me of a student I taught, a very bright young man from South Korea. He was studying in Canada, and his teacher complained he never pays attention in class.
Oh no.
Yes, but actually, he was paying attention. He just stayed silent, because in his culture, silence during listening is respectful. But in Canada, the teacher interpreted silence as disinterest.
Wow, that's such a clear example of cultural misunderstanding.
Exactly. Once he learned to add small responses like, I see, or nodding more, suddenly the teacher said he's so much more engaged now. But in reality, he hadn't changed his listening skills. He only changed the signals he gave.
That's such a valuable lesson. Sometimes active listening isn't just about what's happening in your head, it's about what the other person perceives. Let's shift gears. Sarah, what are some common mistakes English learners make with listening?
Oh, there are several. Number 1, trying to translate every single word into their own language.
Yes, that's a big one. It slows you down and makes you miss the next part of the conversation.
Exactly. Instead, focus on meaning, not translation.
Mistake number 2, pretending to understand when you don't.
Yes, I've done that too when learning another language. You just smile and nod, but inside you're thinking, I have no idea what's happening.
Guilty. But the problem is you lose the chance to learn. Active listening means it's okay to say, sorry, could you repeat that? Or what does that mean?
Right. And usually people are happy to explain.
Mistake number 3, focusing too much on preparing your response while the other person is still talking.
Yes, that's a big one. If you're busy thinking about your next sentence, you're not truly listening.
So here's a tip. Let the speaker finish, take a breath, and then respond. A short pause is perfectly normal in conversation.
I once coached a student named Ahmed who had a job interview in English. He was nervous, of course, and he prepared his answers in advance. But during the interview, he was so focused on saying his answers correctly that he didn't really listen to the questions.
Oh no, that must have been tricky.
Yes. For example, the interviewer asked, "Can you tell me about a time when you solved a problem at work?" But Ahmed answered with something about teamwork because he didn't catch the word problem.
I see.
So afterwards, we practiced active listening. I told him, forget about perfect sentences. Just focus 100% on the question. Repeat the key words if you need time, like a problem at work. Okay, that shows you're listening and gives you a second to think.
Brilliant strategy. And actually, many native speakers do the same thing.
Exactly. And when he tried again in another interview, he did much better.
I'd like to add something here. I think one of the secrets of active listening is curiosity.
Yes, I agree.
If you're genuinely curious about the other person, their story, their opinion, their feelings, listening becomes natural. You're not forcing yourself. You want to know more.
That's true. And curiosity makes you ask better follow-up questions, which keeps the conversation alive.
Exactly. For example, if someone says, I went hiking last weekend, instead of just saying, oh, nice, you can ask, where did you go? Or do you hike often? That shows real interest.
And it doesn't just help your English, it helps you build relationships. Here's another idea. Think of listening as using a filter. Imagine all the words are water flowing into your ears, and you have to filter out the key information.
I like that image.
Yes, so instead of trying to catch everything, you focus on the important parts. Names, times, actions, feelings. The small grammar details can pass through the filter.
That's so helpful. And over time, as your English improves, your filter gets finer. You catch more details.
Exactly.
You know, Sarah, I think humor is also a big part of listening.
Oh yes, definitely.
When I was first learning French, I missed all the jokes. People would laugh and I would smile politely, but inside I was lost.
I know that feeling.
But then I realized, humor often depends on tone, not just words. If you listen carefully to the way people say things, you can sometimes catch the joke, even if you don't know every word.
That's a great point. And laughter itself can be a kind of listening response. Even if you didn't get the full joke, laughing with the group shows you're engaged.
Yes, and over time, you start to catch more. It's like your ear adjusts.
Let's talk about deep listening versus surface listening.
Yes, that's a good one. Surface listening is when you only catch the surface meaning. Like, okay, he said he went to the store.
But deep listening goes further. You notice his tone, maybe he's tired, maybe he's excited. You notice his choice of words. Maybe he said finally, which means there was a delay.
So deep listening is about understanding not just what was said, but also how it was said.
Exactly. And this is really powerful in English because so much meaning comes from context and tone.
Yes, for example, the phrase, "that's great." Depending on tone, it could mean, "I'm happy for you," or "I'm annoyed," or even, "I don't care."
Yes, exactly. That's why active listening is not just about words, it's about emotions. So today, we've explored cultural differences, common mistakes, and some deeper aspects like curiosity and tone.
Yes, and I think the big takeaway is, listening is not passive. It's an active choice, a skill you can develop, and a way to connect with people more deeply.
And remember, don't worry about perfection. Even small signals, a nod, a question, a short phrase, can make a huge difference.
Absolutely.
After a short break, we'll talk about how to practice active listening in everyday life, even when you don't have someone to talk to. We'll share tips for using podcasts, movies, and even music to train your ear.
That's going to be really fun. So stay with us.
So, listeners, before the break, we talked about what active listening is, why it's important, and some of the cultural and practical aspects.
Yes, and now we're going to get very practical. We'll share how you can practice active listening in everyday life, even if you don't have a native English speaker around you.
That's right, because active listening isn't just for conversations. You can practice it with podcasts, movies, TV shows, YouTube, even music.
Exactly. And the good news is, all of those are fun.
Let's start with podcasts, since our listeners already love them.
Yes, perfect place to start. Now, there's a big difference between passive listening and active listening when it comes to podcasts.
Right. Passive listening is when you just play the episode while you're cooking or walking. That's fine, but it doesn't give you the full benefit.
Active listening means you sit down, focus, and maybe even take notes. You listen carefully to the words, the tone, the pauses.
One strategy I recommend is shadowing. That means you repeat what the speaker says, either immediately after or even at the same time.
Yes, shadowing is amazing. It forces your brain to stay alert. You can't drift away because you're actively following every word.
And if repeating every word feels too hard, you can just repeat key phrases. For example, if I say, active listening is like a superpower, you could repeat, like a superpower.
That's manageable, and it also helps with pronunciation and rhythm.
Exactly.
This reminds me of one of our listeners, Carlos from Mexico. He wrote to us saying that he used to listen to podcasts while driving, but he realized he wasn't really improving.
Oh, yes, I remember his email.
Yes, so he changed his approach. Once a day, he listened to a podcast without doing anything else. He kept a notebook. He wrote down 3 phrases he liked. That was it.
Just 3 phrases.
Exactly. And after a few weeks, he said he could actually hear new words in movies and conversations that he hadn't noticed before.
That's such a good example. It shows that active listening doesn't mean long hours. It means quality attention. Now, let's talk about movies and TV. This is one of my favorite ways to practice listening.
Mine too, because it's fun and it includes visual context. You see the body language, the setting, the emotions. That makes it easier to understand.
Yes, one strategy is to watch the same scene several times. First with subtitles in your language, then with English subtitles, and finally without subtitles.
Yes, the 3-step method. It works wonders.
And while you're watching, try to predict the next line. That keeps you actively engaged.
Oh, that's a clever one. So if someone says, "Well, I guess you pause and think, what might come next? Maybe go home or call her?
Exactly. Even if you guess wrong, your brain is still active.
Another tip, pay attention to filler words and expressions. Like in movies, characters often say, "you know," "well," "I mean." These are small, but they make your listening more natural.
When I was learning French, I watched the show Friends in French dubbing. I already knew the story in English, so it was easier to follow.
Oh, smart strategy.
Yes, And later, I did the same with English learners. Many of them watch Friends in English with subtitles. Because they know the characters and situations, they can focus on listening.
That's a great idea. Familiar content makes listening easier. Let's not forget music.
Yes, music is such a fun way to practice listening.
Of course, song lyrics can be tricky. They don't always follow grammar rules, and pronunciation can be unclear. But that's actually a good challenge.
Yes, and the repetition helps. If you love a song, you'll listen to it again and again, which means you'll naturally memorize phrases.
One technique is to listen once without looking at the lyrics. Write down the words you catch. Then check the lyrics and compare.
Yes, that's active listening. It trains your ear.
And you don't have to get every word right. Even if you catch a few, you're making progress.
Now, what about people who say, I don't live in an English-speaking country. How can I practice active listening?
Great question. My answer is, English is everywhere. Even if you don't live in the US or UK, you can still find English around you.
For example, signs, menus, announcements at airports, product labels.
Exactly. And of course, online videos, movies, music.
Another tip, practice active listening with yourself. Record your own voice reading something in English. Then listen carefully. Notice your pronunciation, your rhythm.
Yes, you become both the speaker and the listener.
And if you have friends who are also learning English, practice listening to each other. Even if their English isn't perfect, it trains your ear to different accents.
That's important, because in real life, you'll hear English with many accents, not just standard ones. We should also mention technology. These days, there are so many tools that can help.
Yes. For example, you can slow down the audio speed on YouTube or podcast apps.
That's a lifesaver. If normal speed feels too fast, try 0.8 speed. It's still natural, but easier to follow.
And transcripts. Many podcasts, including ours, provide transcripts. You can listen first without, then read along, then listen again without.
Yes, that 3-step method works beautifully.
Another idea is using subtitles smartly. Don't rely on them all the time, but use them as training wheels.
Yes, and eventually challenge yourself with no subtitles.
So, David, if someone wants to make active listening a daily habit, what would you suggest?
I'd suggest starting small, just 10 minutes a day. For example, listen to a short podcast or video. Write down 3 new words or phrases. Repeat them out loud.
That's so simple, but so effective.
Yes, the key is consistency. It's better to do 10 minutes every day than 1 hour once a week.
Absolutely. And make it fun. Choose topics you enjoy. Sports, cooking, travel, fashion. If you care about the content, you'll listen more actively.
So we've shared lots of practical ways to practice active listening with podcasts, movies, music, daily life, and technology.
Yes, and I hope our listeners see that active listening doesn't have to be boring or stressful. It can be enjoyable, and it fits easily into your life.
Absolutely.
Next, we'll talk about mindset, how to stay motivated, how to deal with frustration, and how to build confidence as an active listener.
That's going to be really important because listening is not just about skills, it's also about attitude. So far, before a short break, we've covered what active listening is, how culture influences it, some common mistakes, and lots of practical techniques.
Yes, and today we're going to talk about something equally important, mindset. Because listening isn't just about ears, it's about your attitude, your patience, and your confidence.
Absolutely. Many learners already know some listening strategies, but they get discouraged, they feel stuck, or they think, I'll never understand. That's where mindset makes all the difference.
Listening in a foreign language is emotional. It's not just a technical skill.
Yes, you might feel nervous, embarrassed, frustrated, even angry at yourself.
I remember when I was learning Italian, sometimes I felt so stupid. Like, why can't I understand this?
I've studied so much.
Oh, I had the same with German. I sat in a cafe in Berlin, surrounded by people chatting, and I felt like a child. I couldn't follow, and that can hurt your confidence.
Yes, but here's the truth. Those feelings are normal. Every learner goes through them.
Exactly. So the first mindset shift is frustration is part of the process, not a sign of failure.
Yes, it's like going to the gym. If your muscles feel sore, it doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're getting stronger.
Perfect analogy.
Another mindset challenge is the fear of looking stupid. Many learners stay silent because they're afraid they'll misunderstand or ask for repetition.
Yes, I've seen that so often. But here's the thing. Asking for clarification doesn't make you look stupid. It makes you look engaged.
Exactly. Imagine two situations. In one, you nod silently, but you don't really understand. In the other, you say, "Sorry, what does that mean?" Which one shows more interest?
The second one, of course. People appreciate when you care enough to understand.
Yes, so the mindset shift here is questions are signs of intelligence, not weakness. Another big part of mindset is patience. Listening improvement is slow and invisible.
Yes. You don't wake up one day and say, now I understand everything. It's gradual.
Exactly. It's like plants growing. You water them every day, but you don't see the changes immediately.
Yes. And then one day you realize, I just understood that movie scene without subtitles. That's the breakthrough.
So the mindset shift here is trust the process. Improvement is happening, even if you don't see it. Now let's talk about comparison. Many learners say, "My friend understands more than me," or "other students are faster."
Yes, and comparison kills motivation.
The truth is, everyone's listening journey is different. Some people are good at catching details. Others are good at understanding the main idea.
Exactly. And your background matters. If you've listened to a lot of English songs since childhood, you might understand accents better. If you've read a lot, you might recognize vocabulary more.
So the mindset shift is compare yourself only to your past self, not to others.
Yes, ask, do I understand more than I did 3 months ago? That's the only useful comparison.
Let's talk about confidence, because when you feel confident, you listen better.
Yes, if you're nervous, your brain freezes. You miss words, you panic.
So how do you build confidence? Small wins. Celebrate little successes.
For example, if you understood one new phrase in a TV show, celebrate it. If you caught the main idea of a podcast, celebrate it.
Exactly. Each small win is a brick in your confidence wall. Another mindset issue, fast speech. Learners often say, "They speak too fast, I'll never catch up."
Yes, but here's the secret. Native speakers also miss words sometimes. Even we say, "Sorry, what was that?"
Exactly. So the mindset shift is, you don't have to understand every word to succeed.
Yes, focus on the main idea. That's enough most of the time.
And if it's important, ask for repetition. That's normal communication.
So Sarah, how do we turn frustration into motivation?
Good question. I think the key is reframing. Instead of saying, "I didn't understand, I failed," say, "I didn't understand, so I learned where I need to improve."
Yes, each frustration is a signpost. It shows you what to focus on next.
Exactly. For example, if you always miss numbers in conversations, focus on listening to numbers. If you miss phrasal verbs, pay attention to them.
So frustration is not an enemy, it's a teacher. Here's one more mindset tip. Enjoy the process.
Yes, don't treat listening like punishment. Treat it like exploration.
Listen to things you love. If you love cooking, watch cooking videos. If you love music, listen to English songs.
And don't forget humor. Comedy shows, funny podcasts, they make listening joyful.
Yes, because if you enjoy it, you'll keep going. And consistency is everything.
So, we explored the mindset of active listening, dealing with frustration, fear, patience, comparison, and confidence.
Yes, and the big message is, listening is not just about ears, it's about attitude. With the right mindset, You'll not only improve faster, but you'll also enjoy the journey.
Absolutely.
After a short break, we'll talk about advanced strategies, real-life applications, and how active listening can transform not just your English, but your relationships and opportunities.
That sounds exciting. So join us and remember, every time you listen actively, you're building your English superpower. Here's something advanced learners can try. Listen for layers.
What do you mean by layers?
Well, every conversation has different layers. There's the surface, the words, then there's the meaning, the idea behind the words, and finally, there's the emotion, how the speaker feels.
Ah, yes. For example, if someone says, "I'm fine," the words are simple, but the meaning might be, "I don't want to talk about it," and the emotion might be sadness.
Exactly. Active listening at an advanced level means noticing all three layers.
And this is where English becomes really interesting, because sometimes the real message is not in the words, it's in the tone.
Another advanced strategy is predictive listening. That means trying to guess what's coming next.
Yes, it's like when you read a detective story. You predict who the criminal might be. In conversation, you can do the same.
For example, if someone starts with, "I had a terrible morning," you can predict they'll talk about being late, or missing the bus, or something stressful.
And if your prediction is correct, great, you're following well. If it's wrong, that's okay too, because your brain is still active.
Yes, the point is to stay engaged, not to be perfect.
Here's another advanced challenge: listening to different accents.
Yes, English has so many accents: British, American, Australian, Indian, Nigerian, and more.
Exactly. And sometimes learners panic when they hear a new accent. They think, "Oh no, my English is bad." But it's not your English. It's just that your ear needs training.
So one strategy is to expose yourself to many accents. Listen to news from different countries. Watch YouTube videos from creators around the world.
Yes, and remember, even native speakers sometimes struggle with unfamiliar accents. I once spoke to a Scottish taxi driver, and honestly, I didn't understand half of what he said.
Same here, with some Irish accents. But with patience, you catch more and more.
Here's another advanced strategy: listen without words.
What do you mean?
Pay attention to silence, pauses, laughter, sighs, or even background sounds. They all carry meaning.
Ah, yes. Like when someone pauses before answering, it might mean they're thinking carefully or they're uncomfortable.
Exactly. Listening beyond words makes you a better communicator, not just a better English speaker.
So let's connect all this to real life. How does active listening actually change things?
Great question. I'd say there are three main areas: relationships, opportunities, and personal growth.
Let's take relationships first. When you listen actively, people feel valued. They trust you more.
Yes, I've had friendships that grew simply because I listened. People said, "I feel comfortable with you." That's the power of listening.
Exactly. And in romantic relationships too. Active listening can make your partner feel loved.
Now, opportunities in jobs, in studies, in networking. Active listeners stand out. Employers notice when you pay attention.
Yes, I've seen students get promotions because they showed strong listening skills in meetings.
And finally, personal growth. Listening deeply makes you wiser. You learn from others. You see the world from new perspectives.
That's so true.
So, how can our listeners continue practicing after this episode?
Here's a simple plan. Choose one podcast, video, or conversation per day. Listen actively for 10 to 15 minutes. Focus on one strategy, maybe repeating key phrases, or predicting the next idea, or noticing emotions. Write one thing you understood.
Yes, small steps every day. That's how you grow.
And remember, it's not about perfection. It's about connection.
Before we close, Sarah, can I share a thought?
Of course.
I think active listening is like planting seeds. Every conversation, every podcast, every moment of attention, it's a seed. You might not see results immediately, but one day you'll find a forest inside you, full of understanding and connection.
That's beautiful. And I'd add, active listening is also a gift you give to others. When you listen, you're saying you matter. Your words are important. That's powerful in any language.
Yes.
So to our listeners, keep practicing, keep enjoying, and remember, you already have the ability to be an amazing active listener.
And the more you listen actively, the more your English and your life will bloom.
Well, that brings us to the end of this special episode on active listening.
Yes, thank you so much for staying with us through all 5 parts.
We hope you feel inspired, encouraged, and ready to make active listening a part of your daily life.
Remember, you can always come back to these episodes, listen again, and practice.
And if you enjoyed this, please share it with a friend. Maybe you can even practice active listening together.
That's a great idea.
Until next time, this is Sarah.
And this is David.
Keep listening, keep learning, and keep living your English.